So, what is this device? This device is actually I guess it'd be best to think of it as an Android smartphone without a screen. Well, it has a screen. The screen is these 18 little sets of pins here, which form a Braille display. You got an 18-character Braille display, hence the name Braille Plus 18. Now, this is actually the second generation. It says second generation. The reason I say that is because the predecessor was the Braille Plus. The Braille Plus was a similar device, except that it didn't have a Braille display. You could get one for the Braille Plus. You could get a display for the Braille Plus. In fact, the display is still being developed. Excuse me. The Braille Plus 18 is a note taker. What is a note taker? A note taker can be thought of as a personal digital assistant for people who are blind. So you've got an 18-cell refreshable Braille display, and what that is these pins will move up and down with a piezoelectric cell mechanism to form characters in the Braille alphabet, and it's like having an LCD screen for your fingers. You got a 5-megapixel camera on the bottom. Now, if you're thinking, well, why would somebody who's blind need a 5-megapixel camera? Well, it says right here, quickly and accurately convert menus, papers, books into Braille or speech. Note that the camera cannot recognize handwriting, and that does make sense. Handwriting is extremely difficult to recognize. GPS navigation. Determine current location, discover nearby businesses, and get directions. Now, the GPS for people who are blind is different than that for those who are sighted. Now, if you were to navigate, say, in a vehicle, which is certainly possible with this unit, it would be very similar. But in terms of navigating on a pedestrian level, people who are sighted could take a look around them and see all sorts of things that are around them. Obviously, if you're blind, you cannot see it. So what happens is when you're in proximity to a establishment, say a coffee shop or a Best Buy or something, it will tell you. So it's so for people who are blind, GPS has become a very indispensable tool. Built-in Google search. The device does run Android. It's gingerbread, unfortunately. I'm assuming there's going to be an update. I hope there's going to be an update to a more recent version, at the very least, ice cream sandwich. Braille navigation stick. Braille navigation stick, that's this device here at the bottom. More of the internet. Now, by default, the Android web browser has not been accessible on mainstream devices. This fixes that. Stereo recording, full-sized SD card slot and USB port. Now you're thinking, well, why would you want that on a cell phone? Have you ever heard the phrase that cell phones are now portable computers? For the blind, that is more than an understatement. It is more than a statement. It is the absolute truth. And you'll see why when we get to the price tag. Although some of you who are sighted may have already seen it. So we have a full-size SD card slot. 3G wireless. Now, right now, the only device available is a GSM device. So if you have AT&T, you can take your SIM card. It has to be a full-size SIM. It won't take the micro SIM out of an iPhone. And a Verizon version is coming later this year. You can send and receive text messages, make and receive phone calls. Again, this is a cell phone. Android apps. Now, it should be noted that the Google Play Store is not accessible on this device. And that makes sense because they went with gingerbread, and gingerbread is not compatible with the Play Store. However, I heard in a podcast that the best one you might have the best of luck with this device is the Amazon App Store. TV output. Now, a lot of people with a smartphone like a Samsung Galaxy would be able to hook up to a TV, get a bigger screen. The TV output's even more crucial for users of this device because the TV output allows somebody who is sighted to see what the user is doing on the screen. This is perfect if you want to share your device, if you want to share Netflix, a Netflix movie, if you want to share a proposal with your colleagues, you can do that. So share and collaborate with sighted peers, teachers, or parents with the TV signal outputs. There's an APH product video overview of the Braille Plus. There's an additional shipping charge. Shipments will incur actual UPS fees, etc., etc. Now, here's what I want you to be aware of. The price tag. $3,599. $35.99. Why so much? First of all, you have to look at the extremely low volume of sales for this market. Compared to the general sighted population, we are a small number. So, first of all, you're not going to sell nearly as many of these devices. Second, these piezoelectric Braille cells are extremely delicate, very precise, and very difficult to manufacture and maintain. In fact, the cheapest Braille display that I was aware of before the one that I'm about to show you, or at least with 20 cells it's the cheapest, runs for $1,500. That calculates down to approximately $70 per cell or per character. So you can see how the display's price tag would jump up really quickly. So $35.99 is about what you'd expect for a device like this. Although the closest competition that I've seen in form factor is the Braille Note PK, which is no longer available. It used to be sold by Humanware, formerly Pulse Data International of New Zealand, now Humanware Canada. The device that the Braille Plus comes closest to, in my opinion, at least in form factor, again, the Braille Note PK, that was almost $5,000. So this is $1,500 less, and yet can do a lot more. It's what many people who are sighted would expect from their cell phones. Now, a lot of people wouldn't think of a cell phone as a full-on computer, but people in the community, in the blind community, do because of the outrageous price tag. I think that sort of mentality is starting to catch on in the sighted world. But for people who are blind, because of the exorbitant cost, you could get 3 MacBook Airs for the price of one Braille Plus. So you can see why it's much more important that these do much more than a standard device would. But how relevant is this technology anymore? $35.99. Let's compare to an iPhone 5. Nowadays, a cell phone is a convenience for many. Nowadays, it's become a must-have gadget. But for people who are blind, it is an even greater necessity. So why not go ahead and invest in a phone that can also be your note taker? It can do what this can do, and for a considerably lesser cost. White and silver iPhone, $200 on contract. Now, I splurged and went for the 64 gig in this example. Let's cut it down to 32 to make it even with the Braille Plus. $299 on contract. And nowadays, a lot of people are getting iPhones because iPhone talks out of the box. You set it up with iTunes, and you have the ability to make it speak. There's a screen reader on board called VoiceOver. VoiceOver allows for completely sightless navigation of the device, and there's even a screen curtain for privacy. Excuse me. Now, Android's catching up, and Android's a great platform. But I learned something this past week at a Vision Forum. Uh, the uh, the device, the access technology will always be released for the iPhone first and Android second. And the reason is because of the integrated approach of the iPhone. It's much easier to develop for this particular market. At least that's the way I look at it. I could be eating my words, who knows. But let's get back to the example here. $299 for a 32 gig iPhone. What about Braille output? Well, that's where this comes in. The EasyLink 12. This thing is a 12-cell Braille display, about 6 cells less than the Braille Plus 18, but considerably less. $10.95. Now, if you combine that with the 32 gig iPhone, that's still $1,300. Now, $1,300 is not an insignificant amount of money to many people. However, compare $1,300 to $3,600 for this, and you get the same functionality. So, why would you invest in something that's twice the price when you could get an iPhone and an EasyLink 12? Well, because the Braille Plus 18 was built specifically for people who are blind. That being said, you have to wonder the increasing adoption of the iPhone, iPod Touch, and iPad, both the mini and the regular, full-sized iPad, has exploded in the blind community. You get the same functionality that you do in a Notetaker for considerably less cost. And it's also what everybody else is using. You kill two birds with one stone here, because not only are you saving money on your investment, but you also are on equal footing with your sighted peers. Having a disability can be very troubling for many people. So, if you can invest in something that is a lot more discreet, a lot more inconspicuous, such as a little device you can wear around your neck, and you can keep your iPhone in your pocket, you can walk along and read your text messages, and it would be just like a sighted person looking at their iPhone walking while they should be paying attention to where they're going, and they usually bump into somebody. It's happened to me. But no, having something that blends in, is just a lot more, you don't feel as self-conscious, number one. And number two, you have an iPhone, and you can get all of the apps that everybody else is talking about. You can, your classmate, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your best friend. Oh, I just found this app. And all you would have to ask, you don't have to say, oh, I can't have it because I have this proprietary piece of equipment. Now, this is an Android device, but not everything is made to be accessible. Not to mention the device, this particular device, does not run the latest flavor of Android, so you may have some disadvantages there as well. But when it comes to the iPhone, now, for a long time, the iPhone has been on top, so you may see many more people with an iPhone than an Android device. Now, this is changing slowly but surely, but my point is, you're on equal footing with your sighted peers if you have an iPhone, and you're saving a lot of money. And if you need a cell phone as somebody who is blind, because having to rely on others for transportation, whether it be a paratransit, your local taxi service, your next door neighbor, that makes a cell phone an indispensable tool. Why not throw in a computer as part of the package? Because that's what this is. It is a computer. The Braille Plus 18 is a computer. It's an Android computer. And just generally speaking, there are other devices on the market that are even more proprietary. The Braille Note has an excellent interface for the blind. The catch is, you can't run off-the-shelf applications, even though the device does run Windows CE under the hood. You cannot run off-the-shelf applications. So you've seen, the whole Notetaker versus iPhone debate. The question is a Notetaker still relevant? Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, it's relevant because of the Braille display. You've got the EasyLink 12 for just over $1,000. Now, that's not an insignificant amount of money, but as far as Braille displays go, it's not bad for the price. I mean, you get a pretty hefty little navigation mechanism for the price. It's extremely compact, extremely lightweight. I mean, let's take a look here at the display, at the dimensions of this device, if I can find them. Where are you? Well, I'm not going to bother looking for this because it's going to draw. Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, here we go. 5.9 by 3.8 by 0.8 inches, and it weighs 9 ounces. This display is extreme. This is the lightest display I've ever seen on the market, and for just over $1,000, I'd say it's a steal. Now, I haven't seen this in person, but as somebody with a visual impairment myself, one of these days I might consider looking into something like this because I want to save the vision that I have. Now, it's stable, but who knows? Nobody can predict the future. So I figure if I have Braille output to give my eyes a break, but just generally speaking, an extremely compact device with a mainstream iPhone that everybody else uses. So you don't stick out like a sore thumb, and you don't have to feel conscious, and you save a lot of money in the process. Android is picking up in this market as well. Windows Phone supposedly is going to have a screen reader in the next edition, and they've got phones for $50 on contract. I mean, the world is really at our fingertips now that we have access to these mainstream devices. So I ask you, is the Notetaker dying? Do you think the Notetaker is still relevant in this in this 21st century connected world that we live in? I'd like to hear your thoughts. I'm not bashing the Notetaker, it's a great device, but I'm just wondering if you can invest in a mainstream device that has all the capabilities of a Notetaker, if you put a Braille display together with the package, and you can save some money in the process and be on equal footing with your sighted peers. I'm just saying, why wouldn't you take that chance? Do you think the Notetaker is going to survive? I don't know, but I really have my doubts. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.